Time travel commencing in T-minus 10 seconds and counting.
It's once again time to go back in time as we head back to the future on the WDW News Today podcast. Let's set our time coordinates for this week's trip through Disney Parks history with Professor Tom Corliss.
I'll be back in time.
It's time to go back. Where, Tom?
Where?
There, you all did it. Good. You've learned well. It's time to go back to the future once again on the WDWNT podcast and here live on YouTube, Back to the Future Live. Better understand where the Walt Disney World Resort is heading in the future. We need to look back at past attractions, current favorites, and in this case, things that never saw the light of day, but you may have probably heard about this one before. Joining me for the segment, Ashley Jasmer. Maybe. I don't know if she's there. Connor Przicki. Oh. David Smith.
Hey there, everybody.
Nicholas Cicero's in there.
Hello.
Patrick Hackett.
10.
And Ron Deanna.
Aloha.
Guys are ridiculous. So, going back to really the beginning of the Disney online community, the moment everything sort of picked up was like 1999. And I remember around that time was the first time I heard people ever talk about internet rumors. And there was a lot of internet rumors surrounding the Magic Kingdom. And, not too long ago, a couple months ago, probably around the time we were doing the Disney Mountain Back to the Future, I came across some interesting documents. Some photos of some interesting documents about one of those projects, and I decided I was going to hold it for a real special occasion. Today is the 10th anniversary of WDWNT, so I decided this might be a really cool opportunity to do this particular Back to the Future. So is everybody ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so let's punch in those time coordinates for 1994 and the closing of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea at the Magic Kingdom. It was a submarine ride. Kids, look it up. It was kind of fun and took forever to load.
Kind of smelly.
They were really hot inside, but it was great. And so they closed 20,000 Leagues, and we'll cover 20,000 Leagues more so in its own Back to the Future. And there is an existing audio Back to the Future you can go find in the old episodes. But nonetheless, that closed in 1994, and there were plans after that to not only find a successor for the 20,000 Leagues attraction, a new e-ticket for the park, but actually there was plans to expand the park with 2 e-ticket attractions because competition down the road was starting to heat up at the time. Imagineers loved the idea of an attraction based on Jules Verne and his writing, so they fought to keep this alive. So even though 20,000 Leagues was gone, they wanted to do something new with Jules Verne and his writing. And so they came up with a mountain roller coaster attraction. Meanwhile, another team was working on a character-driven idea that seemed a little more of a good fit for Fantasyland. So as early as October of 1998, rumors began swirling on the internet about this Fire Mountain project. Inside sources in May of 1999 indicated the project was no longer in Fantasyland, however. While Volcania was drawn up to use the lagoon area as a scenic element, the 20,000 Leagues Lagoon, it wasn't meant to be for that space. Jason, do we have the Volcania art we could show people?
We sure do.
Okay. Because I have a couple talking points on that I'd like to make. So this is an interesting time. Islands of Adventure's opening down the road, and I guess they were thinking a couple thrill rides in the Magic Kingdom roster wouldn't be such a bad idea. And Eisner's still kicking around money a little bit at this time. It hasn't things haven't fully de-evolved yet. So the art you're looking at now is Volcania at the Magic Kingdom. The lagoon you see there is the 20,000 Leagues Lagoon, and then basically using the 20,000 Leagues show building and other space behind there, likely Toontown. You would have had this whole Volcania area, which a lot of this probably looks familiar if you've ever been to Tokyo Disney Sea. This ended up being a lot of Mysterious Island. In fact, a lot of this design work was reused. So the interesting thing is, I don't have the artwork or anything on me, but I have seen a tape where, very similar to this, there were plans in 1991 to put the Matterhorn in this plot. So where you see the volcano in the back there would have actually been the Matterhorn, and there would have been a nice little wood bridge going across the whole lagoon. And you would have loaded into the Matterhorn. There would have been a little Swiss village back there in that left corner where you see that building, which again would be some of Toontown area. And so at one point it was Matterhorn, and then they very simply looked at this fire mountain concept and basically plopped it right in the same spot where they were going to do Matterhorn. So they didn't change the plans a whole lot, the footprint. For some reason back then, they did not have any desire to rip out that lagoon. They decided it was going to be costly to rip out the lagoon, and so they wanted to find a project that would use it, even though just a couple years later they ended up paving over the lagoon and putting a playground there anyway. There's it in red.
You sent it to me. I
did have it. I didn't know which one you wanted to use, but we got both. So there you go. So it's an interesting project for Fantasyland, and it probably wouldn't have even really been Fantasyland anymore. I guess Volcania probably would have been its own little new land in Fantasyland. What does everybody think about this?
The artwork is just so impressive to look at. It would have just changed the way the Magic Kingdom looked.
You got to picture Mysterious Island at Disney Sea. I mean, the art looks so much like it. You got to think it would have been pretty much along those lines, which Mysterious Island is considered one of the best thematic lands ever built, and the rides in it are beloved. So
no, I think it would have been beautiful. Do you guys like who we complain about the theme of Epcot being messed up by putting IPs and stuff in there? Does this mess up Fantasyland?
I was just gonna say, do we think it would work in where they were gonna put it?
If it bridged Tomorrowland and Fantasyland, it really does. It
and
is
20,000 Leagues was already there. I mean, it's not like they were
right.
That's true.
20,000 Leagues was always kind of iffy, but that was the idea with 20K, was it bridged the gap, although the Mad Tea Party being right there didn't often help.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I guess, if you look at it from like almost a sci-fi perspective, it would work.
I mean, I would that would look gorgeous there, but it's funny to think about it now in 2017 when we're so character and IP driven that like I can't even fathom them even thinking about doing that.
It definitely would have changed the character in that portion of the park. It would be much more naturalistic. And
Jason, they're saying they did not see the concept art when you were showing it.
There we go.
It's there now. Do they see it now?
I have no idea. But people are saying they're not seeing it.
Yeah.
We'll find out in a couple seconds. So.
Okay. Someone said enhanced show. Sure.
We'll go with that.
I mean, the concept art it's so incredible of how it looks in Tokyo Disney Sea. I haven't been there personally, but after you said that, I pulled up pictures, and I mean, it just doesn't feel like it fits in a Magic Kingdom style park.
Knowing where the concept ends up, the architecture just too closely mirrors Adventureland in this to be on the opposite end is the problem, I think.
Oh, people are saying they've finally seen the art now, by the way.
And I almost think it would be okay, except for maybe the volcano. As funny as that sounds, because you would have it sticking up. I think it would look odd. I mean, the Matterhorn kind of fits in Disneyland where it is because it's a more natural looking mountain with the snow caps and everything. And an erupting volcano.
There's European volcanoes.
Well, yeah, but this doesn't look like a European volcano.
Could we put the art back up for a second? Because I want to re-explain, because it wasn't showing when I was actually explaining everything. So if we could put the art back up, that'd be great. Maybe there we go. So there you see it again. You see there's even a Nautilus there, so they would have left one out in the lagoon as sort of a nod. But also it fit the theme, so it made sense. But off in the distance, so behind 20,000 Leagues, there was a show building. The rock, the cave you'd enter was the show building. So they would have knocked out the show building, and then with all the extra land back there, built this fire mountain. And then you see to the left, that's kind of where Mickey's house and the tent are. there would have been like the load area and stuff over there. But also you can see this is across the lagoon. There would have been a nice little sort of Atlantean ruins and things.
What's the
going
idea
on
as far as attractions here? That would have been a coaster, or what would it have been?
We'll get there.
Oh, okay.
I'm withholding some parts of the story.
Because we didn't talk about the attraction. We just talked about this being a land, right?
Yeah.
As far as
we're flying through art. There's.
I wanted to
another
get to this one. This is sort of odd. I wanted you to explain this one.
It looks like
that's
it's
seems like an
erupting.
early piece.
That's like the napkin sketch kind of.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
what I was
much. Like
thinking.
that's just an early quick sketch. It looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looks like Everest on a volcano from the.
Yeah, it's the only point at which the ride appeared to have an outdoor section, which people used to claim when this rumor was out there. People used to yell about how the coaster's going to burst out of the outside.
Isn't this an outdoor section though?
I don't know. That looks like a scribble. Like I don't even know what that is. There.
I think this, or else like
That,
I
yeah.
don't know what this is over here either.
That's the Hyperion.
Wow.
No, that's the.
Oh yeah,
it's
that is the Hyperion. Look at that.
Yep, you're right.
That's straight out of Disneyland Paris.
Yeah.
Right.
So you would have basically had a little bit of a what you call it going on here. Why can't I think of the name? The land that was drawn up for Disneyland.
Discoveryland?
Discoveryland. Discovery Bay.
Discovery Bay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been neat. I mean, again, a lot of Jules Verne inspired things, and then the Volcania in the back there. Yeah, that is the
Tony Baxter project. then.
Hyperions there. The other, I assume Tony was involved in this. Then that screams that Tony was involved. Then,
And it's
but
listed
again, you'll
here.
see as much as we do know about this project, there's still a lot in the unknown. But we're going with this because this is way more info than we ever had on this thing, and it finally proves that the thing was real. And this art was out there, and again, certainly you would in the past. It wasn't really clear where this went, but knowing what we knew about the Matterhorn project and then what we got from other sources, it's clear that this was the 20K lagoon where that was. So let's move forward a little bit. So also for that space, they wanted to do. No, we're not there yet.
Oh, you said move forward.
No, we are. We're not. We're not going into that yet. No.
Oh, all right.
We're going to talk about Bald Mountain a little bit.
Oh.
So where you're seeing that, then this other team came up with this other project called Bald Mountain from Fantasia fame. That's of course where Chernabog lives. He's basically the mountain, lives on top of it. Was to have been built near the exact same spot to draw guests to this portion of the park. The attraction would house a log flume, although it was argued at several points that it might have been a roller coaster or combination of both. So maybe Journey to Atlantis-esque, Jason.
Yeah.
It would have had a coaster/water ride. Themed to the Disney villains, also known as Villains Mountain. This attraction would take guests through a hair-raising experience of escaping from some of the most famous evil characters. As a log flume, guests would have boarded a longboat-style raft modeled after Hades' boat in Hercules, and guests would have been taken through Chernabog's Mountain, where the villains were meeting to decide who was the most evil and how to take over the Magic Kingdom. Suddenly, guests would be attacked by a combination of villains, saved only by a slide deep down plunge out of the mountain, which may have been the coaster portion. Who knows? So basically, at the same time, these two teams have these two mountains, and they both want this spot in Fantasyland. And these things never end well, usually. Usually, you have two big competing projects. Something goes horribly wrong for at least one of them. And I'm trying to think of some other good examples of that. And we certainly talked about, I guess, Western River would be one of those where Big Thunder ended up being a competing project and then pushed Western River aside, and then it never happened. So the interesting thing, though, was Michael Eisner loved both ideas so much that he demanded they both be built within a 5-year period. So they basically were practically approved. He wanted to move forward with both of them, but the new plan was each would get their own land. Fire Mountain would be moved to Adventureland, and Bald Mountain would get that plot in Fantasyland. Meanwhile, an IP would be added to Fire Mountain, tying into the upcoming Disney animated feature Atlantis. So the year is 1999. Atlantis is 2 years from release, and they decide, all right, well, you're going to do this Jules Verne type thing anyway. Atlantis is a lot of inspiration from Jules Verne. Why don't we do this with Atlantis? And honestly, usually we fight that IPs don't make sense, things of that sort. This seems like a really good fit for an IP.
That makes sense. I'm just wondering, I mean, I guess Bald Mountain wouldn't fit in Adventureland, but why would you move this Jules Verne-esque thing away from 20,000 Leagues?
Because they were going
to becomes less Jules Verne and more Adventureland, at least exterior-wise, as we see going forward. But the thing with the villains area was it not only was it going to be a mountain, there was always talk that Mickey's Toontown, I'm getting old. Mickey's Toontown would end up becoming some like villains village or something. Because again, that's where whatever mountain they were going to build over there, the plan was always the load or the entrance area would always have been out by Toontown. And so they were going to build like this dark village thing. And supposedly there was going to be an Ursula like tentacle spinner ride and a whole bunch of things Jim Hill talked about.
This is when I was working there and I heard all these things at the time.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, like, this is when villains started to be hot. Like, this is right when Hasmic hit and that store, Villains in Vogue, just became like the biggest thing in the studios. So they were really trying to push these out. And I definitely heard all these in more than just idle rumor. My direct manager at the time was on the FastPass development team. So he was working with WDI and he was, he got moved around from place to place after he left Adventureland to bring in a FastPass to California. So he actually was brought in and he was telling me yeah, I saw this concept. They showed me this, hey, you're in Adventureland. Let me show you these things. So I knew these things were in the works at the time, and then they just disappeared off everyone's radar.
It was weird because no one ever had any real proof back then. Like, I heard a million people talk about it, and cast members openly talked about it in early 2000, like a whole lot. And then no one ever had concept art. And then you saw stuff like this Volcania piece and stuff out there, and you always kind of doubted, that looks awfully generic. Like, I'm not sure that's actually it. Or the weird napkin-looking sketch thing that Jason showed, if he wants to put that up again. So it was just, I don't know. It just, nothing ever looked real until I saw the document we're going to show tonight. That doesn't look real to me. That was just all right. Someone illustrated what they heard as a rumor.
There's probably thousands of these type of things floating around there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the rumors that you get introduced to when you're introduced to Disney fandom. These are the big ones. That there was going to be a villains area.
There's going to be a Lord of the Rings land.
Those are the ones that just
going to be a bar at the Tower of Terror.
But no, these are your intro rumors that these were the things that were supposed to happen. What I found really interesting during that whole bit is we still use that villains getting together things when Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom came out. It's kind of funny that they kept it around for that long.
It was supposed to be a show in front of Gaston's Tavern at one point. They couldn't figure out the logistics, was what I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they still push villains. I mean, Unleash the Villains, they tried. Maybe they picked the wrong park for it, but nonetheless, they tried it. So let's move on in our story. By the summer of 1999, rumors circulated that Fire Mountain would open in late 2002, while the Villains Mountain would then follow in 2004. In early 2000, height balloons were flown, ensuring that you couldn't see the volcano from Main Street, but you would have a great view of it from the beach at Disney's Polynesian Resort. It's around this time that the project died, however, following the box office disappointment of Atlantis in 2001. That was the final nail in the coffin. Also that year, the failure of Disney California Adventure certainly didn't help. The lackluster numbers drawn by the new Islands of Adventure Park down the road meant there was no real driving force to do anything like this. As a park that opened with a ton of throw rides wasn't doing well.
Yeah, it wasn't competition, so they didn't feel like they needed to build anything to counter it.
And then on top of all of that, of course, 9/11 happened. And so by September of 2001, you could consider both of these projects pretty much dead. Although I think Villains Mountain kicked around for a little while longer, probably another couple months or a year after. But I think Fire Mountain, by that point, by the Atlantis release and by the time 9/11 happened, Fire Mountain off the table. And instead, we've now had no new e-ticket at the Magic Kingdom since Splash Mountain.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, so that's 7, 8 years that we're going without an e-ticket. So
At
that's
that point,
right,
never
that's
mind.
pretty
now.
long as it was
Yeah.
at that point.
And we may only be now still a week away from finally the announcement of a new e-ticket for Magic Kingdom. So I mean, it's still a couple years out. That's a very, very long time to get a new thrill ride e-ticket for a park. I think that's close to a record. I know Disneyland's only somewhat shorter between Indiana Jones and now the First Order battle ride that's going to be built in Star Wars Land, but Magic Kingdom's surpassed that. So, all right, so let's go ahead. Let's pull up that document, shall we? There it is. So as you can see, that is a real thing with the Fire Mountain logo.
Tom, this looks like something you made in your basement.
It's Florida. We don't have basements. Don't be ridiculous. So that A should look very familiar. If you're familiar with the movie Atlantis,
It looks like an upside down V to me.
Sure. That's the A from the logo, and there's a whole lot of fire going on, and there's the name. And the name was actually Fire Mountain, which you kind of always thought maybe that was like a project name. No, they were really going to call that thing Fire Mountain. But I guess it makes some sense. You have Space Mountain, you have Splash Mountain, Fire. Why not?
Dwarf Hill.
Dwarf Hill. Jeez. Oh, so there you go. There's the logo. That's the front of the page. You see all that Atlantean writing on the top and bottom. This is a creative intent scope document. This is kind of the same thing we looked at with the Matterhorn for Epcot. It's a very similar document. We don't have access to the whole document. We have screenshots of a couple pages. So I will warn you, this is not as in-depth as some of our other pieces, but nonetheless is the first time the world has ever seen these. So we think it's a fairly cool opportunity.
We don't have access to the whole document because Tom's printer in his basement ran out of ink.
No, because I lost the eBay auction. That's why. Tried to have this book. Inspired, and so I'm going to read you the opening from this creative intent scope document. Inspired by the feature animation adventure Atlantis, scheduled for release in 2001, Fire Mountain delivers a heart-pounding journey into an environment that no one has ever seen, much less survived. Rising ominously above Adventureland, Fire Mountain suddenly erupts, sending unsuspecting travelers en route to Atlantis on an emergency detour straight into the heart of a fiery volcano. It sounds fun, doesn't it?
Wait, the emergency detour is into the volcano?
Sure.
As you do.
Yeah. Seems like it.
Okay.
I mean, have you seen the movie? The
What?
end of Atlantis takes place in a volcano, so it's like a
I guess
thing.
that's true.
Yeah. But anyway, you can pull up. We actually have that. Yeah, I was going to say you guys can pull up the story bit, a page where I'm reading this from. Basically.
So we're traveling to Atlantis. The mountain erupts. And we're set
Hold on,
into
I've got
Into
the
the
eruption.
See, that's my question.
Yeah.
The wording is kind of funny.
You would think the detour would be a little better. Like
Would be
we
to
go around-
Atlantis, like
Guys,
or
it's a
something.
ride.
We're going to Atlantis, and we go around the volcano. Maybe
I mean, in Atlantis, you would be safe from the volcano because of all the water.
that's true.
Yeah.
Maybe
We
the
should have
quickest
just
route.
continued on our way.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the quickest route is through the fiery heart. You know, so like get us through
Maybe.
it as fast as possible, and then we'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's when the
'cause you're
chat said Atlantis. Look it up, kids.
So true.
That was an okay movie.
Great first half, horrible second half.
Yeah, and
Very-
what's
very
sad
generous
about
to that
Atlantis is, as a kid, you know, we always knew the Disney animated films were going to be great. I remember going to see Lion King; it was amazing. I didn't like Hunchback, but then I loved Hercules and Mulan and Tarzan. And coming off all of those, I remember seeing the trailer for this as a kid and thinking, "Wow, they're making like an action adventure animated film." And again, this is in the middle of this golden age, the second golden age of animation, and thinking this is going to be the coolest movie ever made. And I remember, quite honestly, I believe it's the first movie in my life where I was disappointed walking out of it. It's the first time I remember that as a kid. I think I was old enough to understand that it wasn't good as a kid, and walking out of that just being like, I thought that was going to be so great, and we've been waiting years for this movie, and then it wasn't. It just wasn't anything I thought it was going to be. And it's true, the opening like 20 or 30 minutes is pretty exciting, and then once they get to Atlantis, the whole thing kind of falls apart. But it's almost as if we should talk about that on a separate show.
So,
that Ron has
do
developed.
you think? Do you think it mattered really that Atlantis was bad because of 9/11, or do you think because of 9/11 the project would have ended up getting canceled, even if it had the green light? If Atlantis was,
I
a
think
success?
9/11 would have canned it regardless. I think they were already committed to Mission Space, and Filler Magic was a much cheaper option to add to the park. I think Filler Magic only got approved because they put the two big projects on hold and were like just looking for something cheap.
I can't see them making this large of an investment in the park, even if the movie was a smash.
So the two attraction investments were greatly decreased, and I believe they became Filler Magic and Stitch's Great Escape. I think those essentially slotted what would have been the
Two
opening
e-tickets.
dates, which would end up being the opening dates for those two attractions. I think Fire Mountain would have ended up pushed to 03. Because as we talked about before, they weren't even putting up hype balloons until early 2000. And I think 04 they would have opened the Villains as originally planned. And I think instead they went with two cheaper options just to keep a schedule. Because, in 5-year plans, parks typically, if they don't go with their original plans, they do still try to open things in the time frames they originally sort of hey, we need something in Q4 of 2004 and we need something in Q2 of 03. They try to stick to those things.
Yeah, but 9/11, I think, disrupted every 5-year plan that anybody in the world
It
had.
did, and I think they went with these projects that were 1/8 of the cost, but still opened in the time frame I believe these would have. Yeah.
But my point was that I think if they wanted to use 9/11 as an excuse not to open anything, I think that would have been a valid excuse anyway.
Here's the problem: is what if Atlantis had Lion King success?
I think they would have already broken ground and committed to budget before 9/11.
By that point, they probably would have, because they still had a year and a half at that point.
Yeah, but look what happened to Pop Century.
That's true, but Mission Space broke ground at the same time.
Mission Space had a sponsor.
Valid. They had a reluctant sponsor, but I guess they were technically
But a sponsor nonetheless.
forced at that point.
They were contractually obligated.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that this is the worst trade ever, that we lost these two fantastic e-tickets.
And we got Stitch.
And we got
Great Escape.
That being said,
I love Philhar
That
Magic.
one
So.
is good, but
you got to look at the time frame these were developed, though. I would be somewhat concerned with e-tickets opening between 2001 and 2004. That's
Well,
kind of almost the
isn't
low
that
point of
Rocket
Imagineering.
Rides era.
California Adventure, Walt Disney Studios Paris, Journey into Your Imagination, Journey into Imagination with Figment, Mission Space. I mean, these are things that even the things with budget didn't work out. It's a bad time. Filler Magic is the one shining example. Filler
like the
Magic and
highlight.
Soarin' are the only things out of that entire era that succeeded.
Mickey's Fun Wheel.
Was it the Imagineers or was it management? I mean, I'm sure we've had a lot of talks. I think it feels like it's a management thing.
I think it was money and being forced to use properties that they necessarily didn't have great ideas for.
Yeah, shoehorning stuff
That sound familiar? What screams energy to me?
Where's the Bob Chapek sound when you need it, Nick?
It's all right. Save it for later. We're gonna need it later. So yeah, I mean, I think again, I agree with Ron. I think if Atlantis had succeeded, they would have broke ground by then. But I think at that point, I think Islands of Adventure flopping almost immediately at that point in '99, probably they were kind of hold on a minute, maybe thrill rides aren't a good investment.
See, and
There's
I
a
went
lot here that could be considered.
I went to Islands of Adventure in '99, and I liked it.
That's
And-
fine, but it was still a tremendous financial failure, regardless of your personal opinion.
No, but what I'm trying to understand is, I mean, I thought it was pretty decent. I thought, most people that went there liked it. So I'm trying to understand why it was a financial failure.
It was always
Universal
empty.
Escape. Universal Escape. People didn't understand what it was. They started a whole marketing campaign and a rebranding of the property as Universal Orlando Escape instead of a resort, or explaining that it was two parks. So people did not know what Universal Escape meant.
Yeah, to escape the park.
So they blamed all of the failure of Islands of Adventure on that marketing campaign. All the people involved were fired. And then very quickly they became Universal Orlando Resort in an attempt to save the company. But that was the beginning of Universal's spiral out of control. And almost the end of that resort was Universal Escape.
Yeah, I would go all the time over to Islands of Adventure at the time, and I would be able to just say, hey, I want to stay on Hulk, but I want to change Rose, and they'd let me. I mean, it was that bad most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying anything for the quality. Spider-Man was great. I loved the Triceratops encounter. But Islands failed regardless of quality. You know, and it didn't matter how good or bad the park was. It was all marketing. Marketing dropped the ball in that park. And I think Disney looked at that, and no matter what the reason was, Disney's going to look over there and say, that didn't work out for them. Maybe we should do something else. And that's the thing, is Disney was working on 2 thrill rides.
Yeah, they should not brand their resort Disney Escape.
And Rock and Roller Coaster was already a direct response to that
It's
park
true.
opening.
There was a lot of stuff in those 2 years that was. There was a big push those 2 years for new attractions, a lot of rushed, cheap, and bad things. So let's talk about the attraction story, also on that first page of the document. In 1914, billionaire Preston Whitmore he's in the movie, kids, financed an expedition to honor the lifelong dream of dear departed friend to prove that the city of Atlantis exists. Guided by an ancient shepherd's journal, the Whitmore expedition did indeed find Atlantis, but the discovery did not come without a multitude of hardships, including having to escape from an erupting volcano. The year is now 1916. To prove to the world that Atlantis is real, Whitmore Industries has created an amazing transportation system that not only retraces the route of discovery, but enlists the experience, help, and expertise of the surviving members of the first expedition, which will include Father Guido Sarducci as that really offensive character that I love so much. And kids, look up Father Guido Sarducci while you're at it. And now those daring enough to step on board and make this adventurous journey will now have the opportunity to discover Atlantis for themselves. The entrance to the land would have been a narrow path between Pirates of the Caribbean and the Jungle Cruise, taking guests into a large base camp complete with a train, turntable, and plenty of large vehicles. So let's look at this. Let's look at this map. There you see that white building up top. There is going to be Pirates of the Caribbean. What they're circling right now is the second show building. That's what you dive down into later in the ride. Over to the right side, this is where you enter Pirates of the Caribbean. This narrow walkway you're seeing, which is in color compared to all the white on the map, is going to be how you would get in. This is where there's a couple of pieces of Pirates Adventure and Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom in this area now. So it looks like they would have knocked down the tower at Pirates, as controversial as that might be. I know everybody loves that clock tower. That would have got knocked down to make room for this kind of narrow path. This is eerily similar to the Indiana Jones adventure at Disney.
I mean, it's right next to Jungle Cruise, and it snakes its way back past it to get you to an attraction.
And they would have had to shorten Jungle Cruise a little bit, just like they did for Indiana Jones. It's almost identical. It's almost identical. Of course, they don't have pirates in that spot at Disney. Oh, actually, they do. It's just New Orleans Square. It's a separate land. It is in that spot still.
Yeah, the treehouse is.
They got the treehouse.
The treehouse is kind of in the middle and a little bit in the way, but Pirates is right after that anyway.
So this actually, there's a right now next to Pirates here between.
They're saying they can't see this again.
Oh really? Oh,
Jason, I think anything you show they can't see.
It's weird. This is acting so weird.
Because you're logged in as me, and there's 2 of us in here. That's why.
Okay.
So get Michael to put this. Get Michael to put this up.
No, I got it. I know what's going on. It's just Hangouts is weird when you're the host.
Okay.
So this is the Pirates entrance, and
zoom out again so we can show people over again. I'm sorry, everybody.
Oh,
we're having all sorts of fun today.
So this is the Pirates entrance. and load area. And then this is you go down the drop into this building, which is the main show building of Pirates.
Yeah.
And so right now, where this entrance here is shown to the Fire Mountain is a big gate. This is kind of a
well, the gate's a little further back. Go down a little with the arrow slowly.
The gate's
about
back
there,
here.
right about there is the gate. So the tower is right about where you see there's a tree on the left. There, you people can see this now. That's where the tower is at Pirates, the clock tower. So they would have leveled that to make room for this path. The Jungle Cruise would have been shortened. This is again the same thing they did for the Indiana Jones Adventure at Disneyland. And I guess Jungle Cruise would have tied in a little bit. They would have actually, because it's 1916. It's roughly fits the time period of Jungle Cruise anyway.
I mean, the thing is, the Jungle Cruise wouldn't have had to been shortened a lot here.
No, like it's pushing the bank in a little more.
At Disneyland, it was basically chopped in half.
Not about half. They lost like a turn.
Well,
This would have been a very minor,
yeah.
But still, they would have pushed
They would have had to do it.
the shore out a little
Right,
bit
because
more.
this would have had to been the entrance and the exit, just like Indiana Jones is now.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. This is all. This isn't Q. Because we can scroll down. I'll show you where the queue doesn't begin till you get further in, because there's actually a whole base camp area. So
Which
there'll
is
almost
here.
be a whole new little land. Yeah, and we'll show you bigger art, the actual art later. This is just the overhead. But you can see there's a whole village there, kind of located, or a base camp set up over what is a train turntable, which is fun because the railroad passes nearby.
This kind of circular line here is the path of the railroad, because it goes right through the pirate
And it would have
show
went
building.
over the queue. So that tunnely looking S shape.
So this
that's
would have been
where
the
queue-
entrance to the queue right
It
here.
would have been a cave. Yeah, you would have went in like there would have been a mine cart sitting out there, and you would have walked through this winding cave,
And
which
so
would
then
eventually
this
brought
is
you to the
queue,
load
and
area.
This
Yep.
is all
And
queue.
exit. It's got to come back that way
Entrance
too.
and exit in a cave.
Yeah.
And there's no utilidors
That's
that in that area, so they can go down easily.
Right.
Yeah, so they're going down under the train there.
And it looks like the whole show building is inside, so you wouldn't have to really, because if there's any part of that that's outside, you're going to see the pirate show building that's back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they went just far enough back, but you could see if you look at the existing Pirates building, that first building. No, the other, over there. See, there's almost like a secondary structure. It's gray compared to white. They were going to add on theming to the back,
Okay.
So that you
it
couldn't
would have
see it from the
exactly.
pathway.
It would have been a transition, and it would have been a whole new building that would have fit the story,
And a whole new land with just the one attraction. Wow.
basically.
Kind of, yeah.
I wish we could read a lot of that text. It's very hard to read, but
That one looks like sweet potato, but I'm sure it's not.
yeah. But you could see pirate. We can make out pirates, but we know what that is.
Yeah, this
That's
is
why it's easy
pirates.
to read that. Yeah.
Pirates. That's about
I know
it.
this. We talked about it recently, but the original plans for Indiana Jones in Disneyland, of course, it was kind of like a mini land. Had you 3 rides compressed into a very small area. And we haven't talked about the attraction yet, but I'm seeing a lot of similarities again with that project and this one. And that one we do have. Again, we have some concept art too of, and I'm seeing a lot of similarities here.
Yeah. And again, it's around the same time, so they probably reused a lot of ideas and things. The interesting thing is this would have been a fully realized volcano. So it would have been a 360-degree completed volcano structure, which likely a lot of that comes out of the design for 2 projects. One we've talked about at length. Remember Matterhorn, where they basically would have built the Space Mountain building and then plopped a mountaintop over the top of that. A secondary structure over it, basically. I think that's basically what they're going for here. But also, Mount Fuji similarly had been drawn up for Japan in Epcot, and would have been the same thing, where it would have been a full 360-degree mountain, not like Disney does sometimes where they do the whole front and then the back's kind of
Like
just a show
Everest.
building.
Yeah.
Like Everest, like Pandora,
Or Volcano Bay.
Radiator Springs Racers, things like that, where there at some point there is show building to see. This
because you would see the whole front of it from inside the park, and you'd see pretty much the whole back of it from Seven Seas Lagoon.
exactly
Either
the judges they wanted you to from the Polynesian, because it would have fit the theme really great. Yeah. So, And this is again a really, really, really cool. I love looking at stuff.
And it would have really added so much depth to Adventureland. As you're coming through Jungle Cruise, I'm sure you could have seen it. Walking the pathways between Pirates and Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, it would be a huge sight, kind of back in the distance. That
It would be
draw
cool
you
if
back
it's,
that
and you
way.
could see from Jungle Cruise there, the path down towards the bottom. You would have clearly seen the base camp, so it would have kind of been a whole new portion of the story on Jungle Cruise, which I think is really cool because it fits that time frame.
It does, yeah.
And I just think it would have been really, just the story of Adventureland here, kind of this, and Disneyland kind of has it where you're on this Jungle Cruise, but then there's all these other explorers going, into this Forbidden Temple. There's all just adventure around every corner kind of thing. And I think our Adventureland is kind of separate. They're kind of separate adventures. Like Jungle Cruise is down at the bottom, and it's kind of its own thing. And Pirates is often it's its own thing. And then the courtyard where Carpets is its own, and even the treehouse, they all kind of feel like their own separate things. They're not in, and I think what Dave was basically saying that none of it's interconnected in any way. And this would have been
no integration, right?
The first time things were really integrated in our Adventureland.
How dense it would make the traffic on this side of the park.
Terrible.
Between the entrance to this, Pirates, Flash, and Thunder, all without anything between them.
Yeah, they didn't know
look at
Pirates was gonna have a
Disneyland.
movie,
Look at Disneyland, and that answers your question as to how much
But
of a
even
traffic disaster.
Even before that, Pirates had the biggest numbers in the kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we can move on now. So let's move on to we got more art to show. There we go. So I want to talk about this for a minute. So first of all, if you look in the upper left, you could see the train. It's in the trees there. I don't know if we can circle that for everybody. There it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could see it would have gone over. You can see that rock work there, and you could see the cave entrance to the. There it is. There's the cave entrance to the attraction, which looks like you could have gone a couple different ways. There's a big bridge, but then there's also a little side bridge there to the left, which passes by that really cool waterfall area. I also love
It might have been the exit.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
that's true.
It's probably the
Into a
exit, and the
shop, and
entrance
there's a
was
shop
over
there.
here. Yep.
That water
Yeah,
in the
you're right.
background by the volcano, I'm assuming that's Seven
This is
Seas.
Seven Seas
That's the
Lagoon.
Seven Seas Lagoon.
And if you squint, you can see the Polynesian over here.
Yeah,
Okay, not really.
I didn't think so. I was gonna say I've stared at this for a while, but
That's about where
again,
I
you
think
guys may pick
over
up on
there.
things because again, we don't have the whole plan. So if you guys see something, certainly say it because you may pick up on something that I missed.
I mean, you should be able to see the Grand Floridian
Yeah,
over
they
here.
cut it for the
Yeah.
purpose of the art. They didn't
Yeah.
include anything that wasn't a part of the land or fit the story. There's a big water wheel down there. It looked like there were a lot of really cool elements in this base camp. It just looks like a really
A lot of
detailed-
kinetic energy.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
they have the big drilling machine from Atlantis that they used in the movie sitting there in front of what looks like it would have been the exit gift shop, which is neat. I'm guessing there was a food and beverage on the
I was gonna
on
say
the
this
right
building down
side.
here at the bottom, could that have been either a shop or
This one
food
could
and
be this one or this whole thing, I think, on the right.
I think that
I
was the
was-
food.
You think that was?
This is pretty
Yeah.
big.
I was thinking on the
It's
left.
too
if it's
close to the
possible,
queue.
too.
That might
But the
just be-
left it's the exit. It had to be a store, and I bet that white
had
tent
to
is
be a
just
store.
connected to that.
Or
Oh,
you've
that
got this
could be.
little thing over here that could be food and beverage.
That's what
too.
I was asking.
I
like,
kinda
at the
small,
bottom.
but-
What could that building on the? I mean, maybe they were thinking for
Restrooms.
Fast Pass already, so maybe it's
this-
restrooms and Fast Pass.
Or it
distribution
could
and-
be just the facade to mask part of the Pirates building over there. Let's be honest.
It's
I mean-
too far out. Let's
Pirates
go
would be
back.
That
Go
would have
back
been
to the
hidden by
other-
the trees.
If we go back to the other art, we can figure this out. Figure this out live on the air.
That might be just the
Oh,
facade
you're
to cover the
right.
Pirates.
You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
right there. It's right
Yeah.
there.
It's weird because the way it was laid out, it's hard to tell. Yeah.
So
he's
maybe
right.
some
But
shallow
I bet there would have been something
merch
there.
area
I bet Fast Pass distribution and
or
restaurant.
that.
Or extended queue. Wouldn't surprise
Maybe,
me if it
yeah.
was extended
If you
queue.
go back and look at the arrows on that other image, the exit is on the left hand side. You can see things coming out, and the entrance is on the left hand. The exit is on the right. So
Yeah,
it
so
looks
that
like that
little-
bridge would have been the entrance, and then those buildings there would be where the exit is.
Oh
If you
yeah,
look at these arrows. This is. Oh yeah, Patrick.
he's right.
Good
Yep,
catch.
it's kind of backwards from what you'd expect.
What you're used to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Mhm.
bridge is probably extended queue, and that building over here, that might be Fast Pass. and then on the way back here, those
You
are
enter.
probably
You
gift
enter
shops.
right next to the drill, which makes a
You
lot of
enter
sense.
over
I
here.
think.
Yep.
You could
You
see there's a
enter here.
little hut out there too. I bet that was Fast Pass. Look at
There
that
you go.
little
Fast
tent.
Pass.
Yeah.
Right
Yep.
there. This is a gate to backstage.
So you know why? Oh, look at that! If you look at the bigger bridge, above the bigger bridge, you could see the text "Fire Mountain." Nope, to go to the bigger bridge, the other
The
side.
other
No, I think we have it backwards. That had to be the entrance. It says Fire Mountain right there.
Yeah.
It
That
says
could
Fire
just be for
Mountain.
the purpose of labeling the artwork.
No, it'd be here because
No.
you'd see it as you're coming
It's
across
so much
this
wider.
bridge.
The exit being thin makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see it either way.
No, I think that's the store. I think that's the store with the drill. I really do. Because it's a fire. The
I agree
signage is
with
right there.
Tom.
The big bridge.
I'll bet that the tents,
Yeah.
but I guess are on the
You'd
right
enter
side
here.
of the picture.
Right, you'd
That's
see that
probably either
sign.
extended queue
I
or
think it is extended queue.
You'd see this sign when you cross the bridge, so that makes sense that this is the entrance.
yeah, that's to hide the pirates facade and
And this
extended
is to hide the
queue.
pirates. Yep.
Maybe
So there could be bathrooms in there because that could be the.
That little- that little
I think
building
it
at
is
the bottom
extended
could
queue
be-
too, though.
could be bathrooms too.
That's true. This could be. Yeah, this one here could be bathrooms.
Yeah.
And then there's no food or beverage except for the store.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, see, we didn't even have it in frame. There's a whole nother building down at the bottom I wasn't looking at. Yeah.
You don't really
Yeah,
need
this
That
one-
looks like food and beverage to me.
That might be, yeah.
Or restrooms. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's no food back here. It's one attraction.
And it's right across from at the time El Pirata.
Yes.
It's a great
so this
time.
could be
It would be a great opportunity to sell souvenir cups.
this could be restrooms right here.
I want a big drill cup.
Maybe this was the Coke freestyle
Oh,
outpost.
stop it. But then there's a lot of vehicles around, which I think is neat. There's a truck there.
The water wheel stuff.
There's a
over here.
water play area there.
Looks right here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's neat.
Precursor to the Casey Jr. train.
Yeah,
I was
and I
about
think at
to
the
say
time,
that.
Pooh's playful spot doubled as a water player because they claimed they needed it. So I bet for a couple of years they were trying to find a place to put a water play area.
Yep.
And this was one of those attempts. That looks like it would have been fun. It's a bunch of like machinery leaking.
Yes. Yep.
It's
And a
neat.
water
That big
wheel and
water wheel.
everything.
This is a well thought out project.
Oh yeah.
It's fun.
I mean, this is on the scope of, the queue and entrance area for Expedition Everest. Really, when you think
Yeah.
about it,
Mhm.
you've got a big entrance and exit queue. You've got shops and you've got bathrooms there.
Yeah, I think
So it's-
Everest probably didn't help this project either. I mean, because it probably again, we'll build another mountain, and the park needs a roller coaster, and there was a lot of reasons not to build this, and I'm not before people start heckling me. Obviously, I would love to have this. This looks great. I love Jules Verne, and regardless of the Atlantis movie, I think this I would have never left this area.
This would be cool. This could not have not been a
Yeah.
cool area.
And at the same time, I realize this is not a thing that should have happened for guest flow and for a number of other reasons. And that's why we're going to talk about the future later, and there's rumors for this space, and that's why I think this Back to the Future does a good job explaining why those rumors can't be true. So, all right. Where are we here? So the interesting is we don't have all of the pages of the document, so we don't have a whole lot to go on. But we have I have a description of one scene, at least, and we could show you some other things about it. So the one really interesting thing, if you show me the other piece of art, the other colored art, because the rumor for years was, oh, it's going to be this coaster that starts out with you sitting and then becomes a flying coaster, and I never believed that was real. And then I found this document, and there it is. You see the guests clearly seated. And then they're
standing.
flying in the other one, and I can't believe it was real. And to do that in 1999, 2000, that era, this isn't a ride system that really exists. I think there's a handful. I don't even know if it's even been done. I swear somewhere they've done something like this. But at the time, it seemed fairly crazy.
Would they drop the floor out, or would it suddenly?
So
become
look, if you look at the art on the right,
Yeah.
you see the hook on the top.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So at some point you would have pulled forward with the track still under you and hooked the track on top and then just kept going.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not convinced that this artwork on the left is a suspended coaster. It's too.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you don't see the
Yeah, because
track.
look, you see their feet up there at the
They're
top when they're
flying.
going
It's
up
like
the hill.
Superman.
Oh, these are feet. You're trying to say.
These are feet. Yeah, they're not trying to say those are definitely feet.
Okay.
Jason, those are definitely feet.
All right. Hey, you guys know feet better
Someone
than
said
I.
Nighthawk at Carowinds. Yeah, I was going to say somebody has it.
Nighthawk does the transition seated to floorless.
That's what people are saying.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
In the
I mean,
meantime,
it's-
while Ron's looking
it's
up
pretty
that.
neat. So yeah, I'll give you an idea of just one scene. Not this one, but that's more art for you. And you could see, from the queue, you could see that part where it would have been the beginning of the ride where the coaster goes into that
volcano
cave mouth.
That dragon mouth looks very familiar.
It sure does. So the queue would have went down that way, and the load would have been in the middle of that cavern there too. You could see some of the Atlantean writing up on the ceiling there too, on the stalactites and stuff.
Looking at the images, it doesn't look like it goes from an overhead track to a standard track. It looks like it goes from a seated position, and the seats kind of tilt down.
Yeah, so this would have been a little more complicated.
From an engineering perspective, I can't even imagine it.
So are they like the center pivot seats, Ron?
They look like they sit upright, and then you go like recline and like.
Well, this is clearly reclined right here.
Yeah, like fully set, and then somehow it would have hooked and then tilted you back.
The closest thing I can think of is like the four dimension coasters that kind of rotate.
Like
on
X.
its
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, like
Yeah, or
X,
what's the Manta at SeaWorld is?
Manta's just a
something.
flying.
No,
yeah, but
If you load like that, but then it just tilts
Right.
back. I mean, that's not two separate coasters.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. But if you take Manta and put it on a regular track instead of a suspended track where you load sitting and then you tilt, could be.
Switching
I
from
don't-
track to track, yeah, I can't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, think of how Everest does it with just that one switch track. It's such a disaster.
One of my freshman engineering projects was to design some sort of new theme park, and I did something similar to this, and the teacher was like, "That's completely impossible. Like it wouldn't work."
It's not impossible, but
Probable,
it sure
yes.
would be difficult.
Impossible, no. Quote the timekeeper, if I may. So can you guys show me the scene 8? There's a page labeled scene 8, which shows some art of the coasters like flying through lava and stuff. There we go. So this is the one scene we have the full description for, so I'll go through it a little bit. And you can see the model in those shots. Guests rapidly descend through the center of the mountain towards the fiery mountains of lava. After a sudden turn, guests enter a tunnel filled with stalactites and stalagmites. Then flip 120 degrees and race dangerously close to the cavern wall. Dropping out of this arc, guests careen through another cavern that spills them back into the heart of the volcano. This scene would have included lava, geyser, and fire special effects, volcano BGN, as well as carved Atlantean hieroglyphics.
Okay, that looks like Nighthawk, kind of the way those
Well, at
seats
that
look.
point, it's in the flying position. Yeah.
Right, it's not. It doesn't go from like Hulk to Dueling Dragons. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
it was.
it actually does more now if you look.
So yeah, it lays you down, and then then it flips the track. Then you basically go into a half barrel roll and continue along that. That's what it does.
Yeah.
I guess BGN is background noise.
I'm thinking that's what it
I
means.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's much more plausible. That looks.
So the basic idea of the ride, from what we can draw from everything, is you would have started out. The reason that it was sitting down was it's supposed
Easier
to
to
be
load.
Yeah, but it's also supposed to be this calm transport
Oh,
to
that's right.
Atlantis in story, Jason.
Not the emergency detour.
And then suddenly this emergency detour, somehow the ride system would switch to flying. I wish we had the whole document, but we don't. But
Can I just say, I don't think it would it doesn't tilt you back, right? Because their heads are on the wrong side.
It looks like a tilt forward to me.
It's
tilt forward.
Well, or else you tilt back and the whole car rotates 180 degrees.
Wow.
So that when you
okay.
do the half barrel roll.
So I
you
think
weren't
the
driving
seats
the
seem
right
to
direction.
rotate you back and then swivel.
Wow.
Is this
That's-
the math game?
Swivel seats, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so you sit upright like this, tilt back, and somehow swivel, and you're in the almost a Superman position.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which I've been in a Superman coaster before.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a flying coaster. That's what they're called. So it would have switched from a somewhat standard coaster. Although the seating's a little weird, but obviously
Weird
based on the
seating,
ride
but
system.
right.
And then it would have went to basically like the Superman ride. Although again, the harness would have been slightly different, but you would have had a similar experience.
Yeah, that rotation could work.
And again, it would have been for a much shorter period. We're not talking that thrill level. It doesn't look like there would have been any quote unquote inversions.
Right.
This would have been probably the big move of the whole ride. This 120-degree flip.
Well, this is scene 8. This is almost like the grand finale scene.
Yeah, exactly. This is where you're just about out. If we want to go back and look at that other art, we can before we move too far along.
So I mean,
Well,
they
that's
had-
the end. I want to go back for let's go back to these guys.
The interesting thing, at the same time this was coming out, they had to be well into development of Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah.
Which the whole plot is similar, but it's a completely different ride system.
We were
and
going
ride-
to go IP, but the problem is Oriental Land Company has a big say on what they put in their park, so they decided they wanted Journey to the Center of the Earth, and Disney doesn't really have a say in it. So
No, but I mean, like they had that. I wonder why they would develop the same basic ride concept with two systems instead of just going with, oh, well, they're paying to develop this. Let's
'Cause
copy it.
Tokyo probably liked the test track ride system. The other thing is, the Japanese are not big on thrill rides. I mean, many of them ride them, but they don't like a lot of straight roller coasters and things like that. So this ride system may not have been super popular there, as opposed to the test track ride system, which most people can ride. It's not really thrilling to the point of, oh, I don't know if I could do that again. And that's why they wanted that. They wanted that system for Journey.
So, Ron, your question is why didn't they go the other direction with the tech? Why didn't?
I'm just wondering, like,
We already had test track,
yeah, it just seems why
and
they
we were having enough
bothered-
problems with it. No,
Yeah, true.
Why they bothered to develop the same
99 and
ride
was barely
concept
open.
on two different tracks just seems a waste of money to do that when you could just take that Journey to the Center of the Earth concept and throw in the Atlantis IP pretty easily if you've ever watched the videos.
I think for this they probably wanted a much higher level of thrill.
Yeah, this
Wouldn't be able to
definitely.
get with the Journey tech. with
Yeah,
the-
this
again,
definitely
this is
test
the
it out.
answer to Islands of Adventure, where they're opening all these big looping roller coasters, which Disney didn't have, and Universal never had. So Disney never had a direct competitor with rides of that style. And this is Disney trying to say, well, what are we going to do?
See, I mean, even Montu was fairly new at this point.
Yeah. So it's
When
just
did-
Disney
when did
going with the
Kraken
trend.
open at SeaWorld.
little before
2002-ish.
All right, so
Is it that late?
It was 2001, 2002. It was definitely
Oh.
later.
that wasn't even there yet.
So yeah, so that's the first scene. You see that's the load, and then you launch into that mouth on your way to Atlantis. And then I don't really know what's going on in these scenes, but I think this just illustrates the ride system.
Yeah, pretty
Although it does
much.
appear you're getting hit by lightning at some point, and there's a launch sequence there.
This may be the launch sequence.
That's the launch sequence.
No, it's a little earlier than I thought. June 1st, 2001.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been open yet, but it would have been in development.
Yeah.
I don't know how in development you need. You just buy a coaster from B&M.
Yeah, so,
So-
there you see.
Right, so
scene 10 is
the
leaving the
exit.
station. Guests walk out of the grotto and through a wood mine shaft back to the base camp.
So that's definitely not the bridge.
Yeah,
no.
the mine shaft is the same way you came in. It's the queue.
Oh, okay.
That mine shaft is once you go through the cave,
Very much like
Right.
Indiana Jones.
and then you
So
split once
scene-
you get out of the cave. Exactly.
So if scene 10 is unload, scene 9 would be transitioning from the volcano to unload.
Yeah. So 8 is the big.
so 8
like,
is the big
climactic.
scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I would love to know what's in the rest of this ride. So we either need to we must find this book, or talk to someone who worked on this project to fill the gaps in all of this.
Oh, so here's a better picture of the area development.
Yeah.
Or we can. Well, there's less written, but we can certainly see more of.
Future development is interesting. Or future expansion.
Where do we see future expansion?
If you look at the key on the left-hand side, they're talking about all the square footage and exterior
future
facilities.
expansion.
Future expansion. Image capture, merchandise, and storage. Look at that.
Oh yeah.
So that's not a huge. That's only 2,600 square feet.
Yeah,
That's not
merchandise
small.
storage and image capture is photo pickup.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where do you think
But
the
there are
on-ramp would
restrooms.
have
But
been?
look, there are restrooms.
That's a great question when the photo. Probably that launch with the electricity because the flash would have been part of the
Yeah.
lightning.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I love and hate these segments at the same time.
There's definitely
What could have been?
Doesn't look to be-
restrooms, covered
Yeah.
queue, and exit.
no food and beverage.
I don't see any food and
All right.
beverage. No.
So there are restrooms. Yeah. But of course there's a store. Future expansion. Oh, is the image capture and merchandise a future expansion?
Yeah.
The way that's pushed out? Yeah. Why would they wait to add that? That's revenue. If anything,
know.
you add the restrooms later. Come on, Chapek.
Maybeck wasn't here.
Unless they maybe
Chat can't
I
do
don't know.
sorry.
We're still gonna blame him.
That would have been weird. Unless it was a big rush on this project and anything they could push later.
Chapek Mark II.
Yeah.
Chat can't see the art.
Oh, they can't see the art again.
Oh,
It's on my
sorry,
face
chat.
again. So they just saw me squinting at art for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Here's what we were looking at. Sorry about that.
Oh,
So-
Jason.
Facilities, restrooms, future expansion.
Yeah, that future expansion is now way less interesting.
So the covered queue, is that in the cave
Look,
or is
it's
that
right
those
there, yeah.
buildings? Yeah.
Right here.
See, this drawing makes me think the queue is on the left as you're facing the mountain.
And the exit's
Now-
on.
It's that little
why would the
trail.
right
How
snake
can it be the
like that?
queue that doesn't go anywhere?
This is a big
An exit
zigzag.
wouldn't snake like that.
Oh, yeah.
A queue would. Because
Right.
you need to get a space to get
Yeah.
more people.
Yep.
It's true.
But this is very different from what the other picture was too.
This is
I mean-
almost like they were already changing the plan.
Yeah,
There's the drill. You could see the drill machine. Go close.
right
That
here.
is
Yep,
the drill
there's the
machine
drill
in a completely
machine.
different place, as if it has ripped through that cave to make the entrance for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that
So there's a
There's
lot
little
more.
comment
Look at
there,
this.
But this is essentially they moved the storyline forward in time, where the drill did that ages ago. And
Can
they
we go
moved it over
back
here.
one page before this? Because the last one had June 6, 1999 as a drawing. Did the other overhead sketch have a date
This
on
whole book was dated June
It's
6th.
June
I'd be
99.
surprised if
Okay.
pages got
But look at
it.
how this is like a big long pathway, and then in that other sketch, it's like
It's
non-existent.
Yeah.
yeah,
Things changed. At
So this one's more detailed, so this might be the later one too.
yeah.
No, they actually serve different purposes. They still use those less detailed ones because we've had those.
June 15th on this one, and the other
What?
one had June 16th.
There are projects where I've gotten that from people, and then you really got to try and be like, all right, what am I
Figure out
looking
what's
at?
what.
And then
But-
sometimes you get the more detailed one. This,
Well,
is just this is just
This looks like a much smaller base camp area.
it looks
Versus
like
the
it, but
other
I don't
picture.
think it is.
That's not the
Well,
final one, but
I
I
mean,
think
there's the gates to backstage,
Yeah,
right? So there's that other building. So but this
Technically,
is-
you know that
I think that
That
other building
S-
had to have been the restrooms then.
that S could still be there, Jason. If you go straight down the queue. No. Go straight down the queue with the arrow, with the mouse there.
right here.
Now start to do an S. As soon as you get no. Go that way. As soon as it widens
Oh, here's
there,
the S.
and then
Mhm.
I mean it still could be there. We're
It
looking
would just be
we're looking at
covered.
the actual shape of the facility. We're not looking at what way the queue goes or anything inside. That is just
Got
the
it.
shape
Well,
Yeah.
of the building.
this is also the show building without the facade, because obviously a volcano
Correct,
is not going to
yeah.
be rectangular.
No, this is the actual building before they attach anything to it.
Right.
So
But
think
it's-
a flight of passage before they attached any rock work.
But it's clear this is an entranceway.
I agree with
No
that.
way this is the exit.
But that clearly changed because that's not there later. It's not there in the other
Yeah.
art.
It's almost like they flipped it.
well, unless
It's
the
not
entrance is
there.
over here,
And it goes
the
through
entrance
that,
is here,
yeah.
and this is where you would zigzag, and then you'd come out and cross. Then this is the
But that
exit.
really doesn't make.
Here's that backstage
Actually,
gate.
to me, it looks like the people are walking out from under that Fire Mountain sign.
Yeah, it's kind
Right
of
here.
Maybe.
This guy's walking out.
it's weird.
Yeah.
But this is that gate to backstage.
Mhm.
But look, and then this is that other little building. So if you go over to this
Is there a
one,
little train car on those tracks too?
Mm-hmm.
but here's your gate to backstage. Then here's that other little building that could be photo pickup or something.
And there's those. Yeah.
And that whole big building that we thought we didn't know what it was is
Is
really
just
just
facade.
facade right
It's just
here.
pirates. Yeah.
It's just facade, and here's the exit. But that, yeah, I mean, it's hard because there's a waterfall somewhere in here too that we don't see.
Unless
So
all
these-
that queue is behind the waterfall,
That'd be
After this
awesome.
queue?
I think that's behind.
No, because here's the railroad tracks.
Mm,
The railroad, the waterfall has got to be back here because it hides the railroad tracks.
I don't know. That piece is confusing.
I mean, typically with a creative intent document, though, you're going to have variations in your drawings because
Yeah.
the drawings are made at different points in time.
This waterfall
They're-
hides the railroad tracks.
These are not meant to be blueprints
I
or
agree.
No,
construction
they're not.
docs. It's so it would
This
not
is one
surprise
guy's
me.
concept, and the other one is somebody else's concept.
we're thinking too much about this.
We are.
Although what it probably tells me is that they probably argued back and forth for ages about which side
About the
queue was
flow
gonna
and
be
what-
on. I
yeah.
guarantee you. Look at that. In case you didn't believe it, there you go. Maybe Tom might get a nasty phone call this week. There's the ride track plan. Good.
Oh my
that.
gosh.
What in the world?
Yeah.
Look at this corkscrewiness.
Yeah, that's the one
That
the
has to be the
120.
transition,
That's
yeah.
the 120. So keep following that slowly, the way you were
Yeah.
going. No, the other way.
Okay.
The other way. So that way.
Mhm.
So that's the end of the ride. Now get here.
And then you go back.
What's interesting is yes.
Look at that.
Either
Yeah.
way, it could go either way. Because then the car switches back to the floor
Well, that's when you
and
fall
then
down.
pulls forward into the station.
Mhm.
I thought that was really neat. That's the one thing I really figured out from all of that.
Yeah.
Wait, one more time?
Okay, so let's start at the beginning of the ride. That's
Right
low.
here.
Jason, you're at low.
Yep.
I'm at
So
low.
we're coming out this way. This is when you dive. You're going to turn into that cave mouth thing.
No.
And you keep going along and you're going through Atlantis and you're seeing things. Yeah, good luck.
And then, I don't know what happens here.
I don't know.
See, I'm
There's that-
thinking this is where you switch tracks and you
No.
fall back and go backwards.
Oh, there you
at
see it.
some
Go
point.
straight. Keep going straight out to that straight piece of track.
At some
Yeah.
point, you have
And
to
then
do that.
you
Oh
launch.
no! Look, it connects. This connects to over here.
Into the
Yeah.
helix. Oh yeah,
And
no,
then
there
you
go.
start
launch
going
out
backwards.
that way,
You start going backwards.
but you
now.
don't go backwards.
I think you do.
I
I
think
think
right
that's how
there-
you. Fall,
Yeah.
I think that's how you fall back. You fall back on the seat, and that's how you start going the opposite way. That's, why
where
your
the
heads
change
lead.
is.
Yeah,
maybe.
If you look at the other art, the one that was we were just looking at with the
Are they going backwards?
They're
There's a
not
little
going
part that-
backwards, but if you, their heads are always leading. So think about if you're going to recline,
all the
Yeah.
way, like
then
flat
you're
on your
going to have
back.
to
To
start
pull
going
backwards.
backwards.
so that's the back
and then you'll flip
seat.
over. The track will then invert, and you'll.
Oh,
You'll go.
That's why you do the one-
That's how you do it.
So if you look at that last piece of art again,
Where I
one
just
page
Hopefully it's
was.
actually
back.
showing on the screen.
One
Or
page
this one.
back, Jason.
Okay.
Zoom out. There's a little like question marky looking curve on top of the one more forward. There's a
Oh,
little
here.
question marky, so you actually can see that's part of the track that goes above what the actual show building's supposed to be, I think.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
definitely track.
So that might be this launch. You see that long curve?
Yeah.
This thing.
Yeah, so that
That's
might be
this.
a launch.
So yeah, you'd go into the cave mouth. Here's where your seats would recline, and then you'd
Some
start
sort of
going
show
the other
some
way.
gap in there, yeah.
You launch, so you're basically laying on your back with your head going first, launched, and then here's where you rotate, so you're face down in a flying position.
That's brilliant.
You're face down in a flying position all the way around here, and then
Oh,
here
like
looks
the
like some
park
rolls or
screen.
something.
That's where's the
barrel.
120. Yeah,
120, and then you get to here where this is where you rotate back.
for capacity, which is
Right,
half.
you rotate back
Mhm.
because you end up here. Then the cars have to rotate around.
Yeah, but if
Get
another
you
train
upright.
comes in, there's space for it, which I think
Right,
is
the second one goes there,
genius.
and then
Yeah.
it goes to here, and then load and unload is right here.
Yep.
Wow.
This
Or
one-
else this over here could be a hold area for a third train
maybe.
and
Probably.
second train. So you would go here, you would rotate back to normal, unload would be right here. Then the cars would go here to load. And then this is a hold area for an additional train, for the third train.
That might be the
Yeah.
maintenance track.
Essentially that
Possibly.
too, yes. Exactly, because it's in the middle of the building. It's maintenance and hold bay for a third train. That's what that is. This is a pretty neat track plan.
Yeah,
This is
pretty
neat.
compact too.
It is.
I would love to see that track
Whoa.
somewhere.
Oh, look
Wow.
at this.
Uh-huh. I love when everyone oohs and ahs. I keep forgetting you guys
It's
haven't
hard
seen
to-
this yet.
I mean, these are elevations, but it's hard to really
It's
discern.
hard, yeah.
But here's where you would invert, and then you'd launch up here, and then flip over.
That's such an awesome design.
It's a very cool design. It's a very cool design to get you from a seated to a flying coaster position without having to leave the track.
Yeah, it's
And
neat.
it says 3 train operation. Look right here. 3 train operation.
Yeah, you
So that
called it.
Yep, you're right.
that's the maintenance / storage track for the third train.
Are we pretending they weren't going to run 3 though?
Well, you need a braking station for every track, for every train you run on a coaster.
Yeah, they're there.
No, but you need resting positions for shutdown.
They're
essentially.
there.
Yeah,
Go
the
back.
third.
I'll show you. There's three spots. Yeah.
There's one here.
Even though
Well,
that's where they come in for maintenance or whatever, it doesn't
Right.
matter. It could
No,
still,
right. So
they
this
could
is
send a train that way, and
They
then it can
could.
come into load with people. It doesn't matter.
if they had to. I don't think
Yeah.
they would normally.
I
That
don't
would be
know about
emergency
that.
or something. But normally, you would have a train here at unload. Here would be load, and then a train here would
Someone
be
out?
empty. This one would be empty.
Or would one
and
be
then
out
when
on the
they-
track at that point?
I would say the other one would be that another unload would be that bottom part in the bottom left hand corner could be another one.
No, that's where it flips.
Right, but they could still make that a load.
Oh, that
unload
could be a
point.
brake run if it needed to be for emergency. But I'm talking about for storage.
No, because there's one spirally part. I was going to say the green or brake zone.
For storage, you'd have one at unload, one at load, and one in maintenance. And then when you want to bring the third train online, you hold unload, you launch load, and open up the space, and then it just
Yeah.
comes right into launch. And then when you're ready to put it back into storage, you send it through empty and switch this track so it goes here empty into maintenance with no passengers.
Yeah.
And is this linear induction? Did we say that?
Yeah, there's a
Sounded
launch.
like it.
We think
There's a-
so.
Well, I mean, Hulk's a launch without linear induction too. It's that weird.
Yeah, I mean this could be because it's not a huge
Catapult.
it's not a huge vertical incline, so it could be. It's hard to say.
We have more art, or is that the end? I forget. Might be it, right?
I think this might be the last one. This is the last one. Yep.
Okay. So that is Fire Mountain. And again, it's sad. I like to do these segments with like the full story, and we're obviously missing a lot of the show scenes and a lot of things that happen in the ride. But it's a pretty decent look at something that's never really been totally well documented. So I wanted to do this. And it's also kind of timely again with some rumors that are going around. So let's talk about what became the project. The land intended for this attraction appears to be destined to host a volcano either way. Rumors are swirling that it could be home to a volcano hotel or a Moana-related volcano roller coaster ride. See, I think having looked at what we just looked at, we looked at the plans, and the first thing people said was it's too narrow. That's going to bottleneck. That you can't have an attraction there. it's not a good attraction spot. But if you had a low occupancy boutique hotel, that would work. So that's why I stick with that rumor. The Volcano Hotel going there. It could be the Moana thing. I think either way, they seem determined to want to put a volcano back there. All the rumors point to a volcano back there.
I mean, if you look back to the development of the Magic Kingdom and the Polynesian Resort, that was the idea. A volcano in Adventureland that is perfect sightlines from the Polynesian. I mean, that idea was out there in 1969.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising at all that that's a spot to put a volcano, because that idea has been on the table for 40 years.
Yeah. So it maybe finally happened. Meanwhile, in Fantasyland, the new Fantasyland expansion was announced nearly 10 years later, finally using all of this space and more. Of course, Toontown became Storybook Circus. What would have been the plot for Fire Mountain or Bald Mountain became the Little Mermaid attraction, as well as some of the Belle Village and Be Our Guest. And what was 20,000 Leagues, some of that was obviously the Mermaid area as well, but a lot of it became the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. And so that's what happened. So the Fantasyland plot finally got claimed. And now we're waiting for the other shoe to drop and something to happen with this Adventureland expansion pad, if you will. What does everybody think? I know we usually ask about the future. Obviously, those are two rumors that are out there, but
I'm worried. Would that take away from the little canal where they store the electrical water pageant?
No, that's a little further back.
Further back.
Yeah.
That's a little further back, and if you're looking
Beyond
at this picture, it's to the right of the mountain.
Yeah, because that's over. This is basically directly south of Pirates. Beyond that, you still have Splash.
Yeah, and you have the big water circulation tank back there.
Yeah.
Right, but that goes further north than that canal. I don't know how far that canal actually goes.
Well, if you look at Tom's article on that hotel, he's got the aerial view.
Maybe we could pull that up. That'd be cool.
Yeah. What was that called?
I would just search Volcano Hotel. It might come up.
I think it'd be really cool to get this roller coaster themed to Moana, though.
Okay, that canal can't go away because it ties all the way to Rivers of America.
Yeah. But I've got the map right here. I'm gonna try to pop it up.
I think I'm good on the Moana roller coaster.
Oh, this isn't the one. There's the one. Okay.
There we go.
So here's the canal. Right, it's all the way behind Splash, and behind these are the parade storage buildings.
Yeah, I'm looking at the satellite imagery right now on Google, and if they put I don't know how they're gonna.
So
you can see that plot hasn't changed. Like that volcano,
right?
Yeah,
Mount would still fit there.
Here's
perfectly.
the Pirates. Here's the Pirates second show building. Here's the Pirates load and unload. So that volcano would have been here.
Yep. And that's still when they're talking about the volcano.
Still where they're talking about.
Yeah.
But you've got the canal. You can see the electrical water.
Good idea never dies.
Yeah.
So yeah,
WDI says that it's absolutely true.
But you've got the whole back of Splash, and then behind Splash is parade storage buildings.
Yep.
That are yet to be there. So that canal would never go away.
Yeah. No, they couldn't do it just because it's the boat. It's how you get boats in and out
of Rivers of America.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, if this was a hotel, my biggest question is, if this is a hotel, where's like the parking lot for the hotel? And
I think it's across the street.
It's a boutique resort.
I think it would be valet across the street or something.
It would just be like an offset of the Polynesian, right?
So you think they'd build a bridge over the canal to get to the hotel there?
It has to be a drawbridge too.
And they drive you backstage or something.
No, because Floridian Way would be where you'd get to the hotel.
Also, where that's located, that the walkway on the side of the monorail would get you there. So maybe they park you over by Contemporary and walk you over.
All the way over.
Kind of far.
No, I think the parking lot would be over on the other side of the canal.
They'd build a drawbridge on that canal.
And of course, you could enter it from the park.
Yes.
Right. I mean, I think I understand the desire to put an attraction here, and I think this is probably what WDI is thinking is, it's a
This
prime
is so close
location
to the Magic Kingdom, right?
Yeah, but-
it's
it's-
one of a very few prime locations.
it's one of the
Pirates
few
and Jungle
expansions.
Cruise just kind of hose it.
It's their
Yeah.
last real expansion pad, isn't it?
Oh,
It's the last empty
get
one.
rid of that damn island.
All right, the island and the speedway, but
The island changes everything.
Yep.
There's several different ways they can expand if the island is gone.
and that parking lot behind Galaxy Palace.
Yeah,
area.
yeah, which is going to happen someday. The treehouse could still always go.
The treehouse doesn't have a big footprint, though. That's
No,
what
it
I
doesn't.
always.
It's decent enough. It doesn't have to be an e-ticket, but you could put something there.
You could put you could put a spinner or a flat ride there.
Or a small dark ride, anything,
You
show,
can hide a small dark riding.
show
take that
venue.
fast. A Caribbean Way is another
What
one.
were you saying, Dave?
So I understand their desire to do that because I think nothing would help the park more than an e-ticket attraction and its prime location. But I think logistically, unless they were to do, and I'm not even sure you could do it, a major overhaul of Adventureland, where you're basically getting rid of almost everything that's across from Pirates and Jungle Cruise, there's no space there. And even you would have to somehow expand the space between Jungle Cruise and Pirates. And you can't do that without, again, ripping out large portions of Jungle Cruise. So I think they'd like to. I don't think that they can put an attraction there at this point. And so they may just be falling back on the resort because of that.
Now they could. There's a whole walkway that goes back there already. They could use that. I mean, they just have to theme it. It's a pretty big walkway. Because that's a Pirates evac route is back through the Caribbean Way and back that way.
And I mean, this is how you get to backstage behind the western half of Main Street is back from here.
Yeah,
So
you can't
all
reach
of the
this-
deliveries.
Yeah, there's the whole Caribbean Way that goes back from those parade buildings.
Yes.
Behind Jungle
Right.
and all that.
Because this is how when you run Main Street Electrical Parade that starts at the hub or that starts at Town Square, it comes out of the parade show building, drives down Caribbean Way to right here. And it starts right here. So this is a actually very heavily used road, which the Fire Mountain concept art that we saw would go the load or the queue area entrance and exit would go under this road most likely.
They would have to dig under or over, and it has to be pretty far over to get parade floats.
Yeah, no, I think it would go under, or I think they would just build like a bit of a bridge on the road to go over the tunnel. Because the tunnel would
But you're not going to route people through Main Street to get to a volcano attraction.
No,
Oh,
no.
you mean-
But if you
No,
look at
you'd
the
have to
satellite
do-
map, you can see the pathway. That's a pretty decently wide
right here
pathway. They're meant to get cars through there already.
Yeah, this is a pathway to get backstage from Pirates. And actually, I've been back here because there was once this building over one of these two was a prep building for Magic Music Days. And when I did Magic Music Days when I was in college, we actually were told to walk back this gate next to Pirates. They had yellow painted footsteps
Cameras
on
on
this road.
me again and not on the map.
I didn't. Sorry. We would end up. They told us to
Watching
walk.
me scratch my eyebrow.
There you go. They told us to walk back the gate next to Pirates. They had yellow painted footsteps on this road, and we'd walk all the way over here to this building, which was the prep area for Magic Music Days.
Right. And my concern is not that pathway. My concern is the triangle right there between Pirates Jungle, the main Adventureland throughway.
Right here.
Yes, that point right there.
That ain't happening.
This is a choke point, basically.
You could widen
It's
that a
already
little bit.
crazy there.
But
It
that's what I'm
is.
saying. If you could push back these buildings on
Well-
the other side here, Pirates, then maybe you could get enough.
This is
access.
crazy because this is a stage. I
The
mean,
stage could go, and on the southern
Even with the stage gone, all the problems is on the left side. the stage doesn't help during showtime, but when it's not showtime, there's still problems there.
But on the jungle
solar parking
corner,
right there?
you could push that back about 10, 15 feet without really moving the river much.
Or the facade of Pirates, because like here's that tower, right? So
you
here's
ain't
the
touching
tower.
that tower.
No, but you could chop
Save
away
the
the whole
tower.
front. You could chop away the whole front of the facade of Pirates and move it back 20
Why don't I
feet.
chop away the front of you? And move We're losing the auction scene. You want to rip the facade up?
Hey, you get to keep the tower though.
But it's big enough to get heavy equipment in and out of that path. They
That
already
clock
think they have
tower saved Doc Brown and Marty McFly. Oh, dude.
It's a different clock tower.
No, it's not. It's the fourth one where they go to the Caribbean during pirate time and meet Captain Jack Tannen.
Yeah, I mean, this walkway is nowhere near as bad as the corresponding walkway in Disneyland.
I still don't. It doesn't work. Pirates is too close there. It's too popular.
If it's a boutique hotel, couldn't they just have on-call boat service?
Yeah,
That was what killed the Discovery Island thing. That's too difficult to do.
but people are paying way more for this.
Yeah, no, I mean
I don't think
you
they'd
would
be paying way
build a
more for this than they would
drawbridge.
for
Look,
a private honeymoon suite.
How much
By the
you
way,
want
you
to
can
bet?
see that's the water pageant right there.
It's
right
fine,
here you
yeah.
build a drawbridge. Right
Tom,
here
these-
you would build a
these
drawbridge.
rooms,
So the
every one of
hotel-
the rooms is going to be more than the Polynesian bungalows each.
Correct.
Jason, zoom out a little bit.
How boutique are you thinking here?
It's in the Magic Kingdom. It's a hotel in the
Yeah.
world's most popular theme park.
And you can just
It's
pull a
like
side road.
printing money. Bob Chapek's gonna be jumping in a money bin.
You can just pull a side road off Floridian Way. You can clear some of this out,
Right.
and you can just
Well, the
pull a
hotel
side
Him and
road.
parking lot-
Launchpad McQuack are gonna be going on adventures.
The hotel
After
parking
this
lot would
hotel
be over
opened.
here. The parking lot would be on this side, and then you'd have the hotel over here, and there'd be a drawbridge, or they'd build a really high bridge. I mean, maybe you'll enter the hotel on the 5th floor, and that's where the lobby is.
I mean, I'm still thinking anything boutique for them has to be 200 rooms.
Yeah, but that's not a big footprint.
No, but nothing 200 rooms. Even that they're not going to fill at 3,000 a night.
No, but I mean, it's hard because the thing
It's
about
a
this is,
hotel in a volcano in the Magic Kingdom.
No
It's
matter
a
how
little different
appealing
from
it
a
is.
Polynesian bungalow.
no, but here's the problem: is if you put a hotel in this area, there's only one side that has decent views, and that's this side that faces the lagoon. You can't have rooms on the whole back side that face
Correct.
Because they're
It's a
going to
boutique.
show in backstage.
So you're going to have, it's going to be like Kidani Village where there's only rooms on one side looking out,
Probably.
and then everything else is backstage or
Services,
service area for the hotel or restaurant or whatever.
I think 200 is too many, Ron. I think it's more like
Should be less.
30 to 50.
100 max, I
Yeah.
would say. And I mean, then you're
It's
here.
the same as Star Wars. They want to do these boutique hotels. I guarantee you in the next 10 years, we'll have one at every park at Walt Disney World. It's a big thing they want to do. They want to have one of these at each park. Same thing with Club 33.
Yeah.
Same
I mean, the
business
numbers
model.
I've heard for Star Wars are 400 rooms for the
Star
initial.
Wars is a little different though because
They have
that's
the
one that
space.
everybody on Earth wants to do,
And they have the space.
as opposed to one where people with a tremendous amount of disposable income are going to look at it and be like, "That's where we should stay."
Yeah.
Star Wars is going to be everyone on Earth wanting to be like, "I want to stay in the Star Wars hotel." That sounds amazing.
Hmm.
But I mean, imagine they could build a little monorail station right here for that hotel too.
I don't think they need it.
No, they probably don't.
They could walk down to the boat right there. It's real close.
Yeah, you could walk.
For that
I-
proximity to the Magic Kingdom, which will probably have a back entrance into Adventureland.
Right.
I mean,
Probably have
Yeah, they'll have a
express
back
service
entrance to Adventureland, and the monorail resort, the resort monorail will be your monorail.
someone made a point that I agree with at this point. Knock down pirates, reorganize the space, and bring in the Pirates ride from Shanghai. I'm on board.
Build it back
If
here.
you're going to rip out the auction scene, we don't have the original pirates anyway. I'm on board.
Right. Yeah, you could build that back where the Fire Mountain was. Then you have this whole space to be able to deal with additional expansion and traffic flow. You don't need a thin little
Let's do
walkway
it.
to get there.
Yeah, we fixed all your problems.
Good.
Just
Yep.
bulldoze Pirates of the Caribbean.
Call in the bulldozers,
You're
Bob.
not okay with taking down the clock tower.
Bob Chapek, and I
You're okay with bulldozing the entire thing.
And now I don't think the castle should be in the top 5 is suddenly not the most controversial.
I've been on the air for 8 hours. At this point, I'm knocking out Pirates of the Caribbean.
Love it.
All right.
Mansion's next. We're gonna build a mansion restaurant instead of an attraction.
If you look at what takes up more space, Jungle Cruise takes up way more space.
You shut your mouth.
and you don't have to bulldoze anything. You just have to fill
You
in the
just keep
water.
quiet. Keep the thoughts to yourself, Beard.
Just
The
fill in
Jungle Cruise
water.
is big. Why don't we just get rid of Tom Sawyer Island and make everyone happy?
Yes, that's the best idea.
What would you do with it?
Lots
I
of
can
things.
do everything with that space. Look at it.
Would you fill in the
And then
water?
look, it
I
connects
was
to
that's what I'm
that
asking.
pad.
Would you
The
fill
pad
in
behind Mansion and
over here.
Small
Yeah.
World. And
would you
every
over
fill
here.
in Rivers of America?
Do you fill in the water? Is that what you're
I
talking
would
about?
fill in the back half.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right here. Look, the water will just connect
Absolutely. That's
right
all
around right
land.
here.
I make all that land.
No. You could keep the water and it just circles right here.
Right. Don't fill it around the Fort Island, not the main island.
Yes. You fill the
Yeah.
back island in.
I suppose.
And then you go past Mansion and you get the access to all
Why
the
can't
space.
I just get rid of the whole thing?
You have access to
What is
all
All right,
that?
we're getting off topic. We're getting off topic. All right. I think with that, we have completed our journey through Fire Mountain. With that, you can take it away, McFly. Somebody whoosh. Whoosh.